It's time to introduce Angie and Theresa, who are coming to us to talk about how to bring methods together and unite insights. So Angie has a storied career. She worked with Theresa at Meta back in the day, and then Angie did some great research at Robinhood, and Theresa now leads the market research team at Asana. So today, together, we're going to talk about how to unify the insights and work really closely with cross-functional partners who are thinking about the world from different perspectives. All right, thank you, Angie and Theresa.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, I just want to make sure I have the clicker ready. So, hi, I'm Angie. There's a little bit of reverb here, but bear with me. So I believe the best experiences come from connected insights. So I've helped ship a lot of products from 0 to 1, from crypto wallets, AR glasses, and online editing tools, and so much more. But I've also had the privilege to build unified insights teams and supporting incredible researchers. And of course, I can't be here today without one of the best marketing insights partners to talk about unifying the insights.
Hi, I'm Theresa. My experience is in leading research teams through tricky research problems like how to launch a robot that doesn't exist, or what virtual world is going to help us best sell a device that won't exist for another 10 years, and now in the exciting world of work management. I'm pumped to share a portion of that journey here with you today.
Awesome. Okay, so bear with me. I want to do a little exercise. How many of you are market researchers? There has to be there. Like, this is the market research section, right? Awesome. And how many of you do audience research? So segmentations, attitudes and usage studies, etc. Cool. And how many of the market researchers help prioritize features? I assume all of you. All right, cool. So the rest of you are, I'm assuming, user researchers and UXRs. So how many of you work to understand your users or do jobs to be done studies? Right? And how many of you help prioritize features or value props? Cool. So we have a lot more in common than we think. So we believe the most powerful decisions come from the intersection of insights. And what that really means is that when we come together, there's better decision making, greater stakeholder clarity, and we are able to build thoughtfully for the long term.
All right, now for something different. I'm going to show you 2 clips of 2 products that I helped launch. One was a great commercial success. The other one, not so much. Pay attention. We're going to ask you later which one you think did really well in market.
And another case of the kids in the treehouse. And Dad wanting to be.
Ladder.
Only a victory against Cosmo would grant him entry. A tough challenge, thanks to Dad's 100% failure rate. A rate he maintained.
What a time to...
All right, you get the gist of what that product is. All right, now to our second product.
Hey, Vector, what's the weather?
Hey, Vector. Take a photo of me.
See you, Vector.
Hello. How can I help you?
Kona, what's the weather?
Rain. Buying jacket. Buying everything.
No.
Selling private information now.
No.
All right, you get the gist of what this product is. One was a success, one not so much. Keep your votes. We're going to come back to this. I'm going to leave you in suspense for just a moment. So sometimes, even though user and market researchers come into a product with the same goals, without a shared language or similar approaches, sometimes we work in silos, which can lead to misalignment of strategy. So generally, this is where we've seen our teams sit. This may not apply to you. Also, you may notice I'm going to use UXR and user research interchangeably just for the purposes of today. We know they're different. So with that, some of you may look at this and think, well, I actually do some of that other group over there, and that's kind of the point. So our stakeholders tend to ask whoever's sitting in the room with them or questions, and it's really up to us whether to answer directly or bring in our partner teams for a more holistic answer. And it's not just us in the room. We have all of these other really smart insights functions all around us who may not be on the same team or even talking to us on a given project. And of course, the elephant in the room of AI, where everyone has data now at their fingertips.
Cool. So where does this lead us? Before we get into the how, let's align on the why. So insights exist to inform decisions, right? So we need to start with the goals. So you're going to notice we like frameworks. This is our goal framework. So products need to define value and create a valuable experience. Marketing needs to communicate that value, right? Usually through a go-to-market strategy. And business needs to capture that value, usually through strategy and growth. And of course, everything centers around the user or your customers. And so then you take these goals and you translate that into the meaty research questions we're so good at asking. And then once you have aligned on your research questions, you'll likely map out a roadmap, right? And again, love frameworks. Using a framework can be quite helpful. So some companies might stagger insights through a purchase funnel framework. This isn't exhaustive, it's just illustrative, so you get a sense of different swim lanes. But you might use a different framework. I'm actually going to show you a different one that I've used. But the whole premise is that this is an exercise that helps you plan and prioritize for the longer term and also helps you identify areas of overlap so that you can figure out where you can swim in and where your partners can swim in. There's probably times where you come together, and there's probably times you're going to let them lead. So what does that look like in practice? Well, at my last company, we were looking to expand internationally into several new regions with limited budget. Story of all our lives, I'm sure. And no one was asking for research, which was very scary to me. But part of this is also on me to help carve out a path to show where research can inform these big decisions. So that meant bringing together our stakeholders, our researchers, together to align on goals. So for us, that was really to launch a scalable experience for that region, so that's your product, to the right audience with the right value, that's our marketing, and that's ultimately going to lead to, obviously, customer growth and market share, so our business value. So knowing all this is what helps us develop those critical questions, that next layer deep, that we want to answer and where we researchers can step in. So for me, we had another complication. So organizationally, I needed to figure out resourcing. I intentionally did not hire because I had a long-term vision that every researcher would have an international exposure eventually. And I wanted to provide stretch goals for those looking for leadership opportunities beyond their scope. So in our case, a paired model made a lot of sense. So that's one market researcher and one user research coming together for each new region and allowed each other to play to our strengths, but also balance out that workload. And so, of course, with the new working team that we had, including some of our local leaders, that early alignment on our shared goals that I shared before also provided us with a common purpose. It helped us as a research team share with every single function that we were working together with what we could do. And then finally, like just how you launch a product with an MVP, you test and learn, we did the same with research. We started with a small pilot study, demonstrated our value, and then scaled out a full roadmap. So, ta-da, another framework, right? So earlier you saw the funnel framework. In this case, for one of our regions, we used a different framework. Some of you might recognize it, it's kind of double diamond-ish, but really, the whole premise is there's no prescribed way to approach this. It's a very, very fluid process, and I recommend that you pick something that your company understands and you plan together. So again, not exhaustive, but might give you an idea of what you could do as a team. So what was important for us was that our insights roles were not working sequentially. We actually wanted to find moments where we could all come together so that we could constantly form and build off each other. And so what happened? So region's not launched yet, soon I hope, but we identified gaps in the navigation experience, the product experience. We were able to work with design, product, and engineering to advocate and create new localized products that actually had global implications. We actually unlocked a different type of investor, one that had much more expectations than what we were used to, especially in the US. So we understand and found how to reach them and differentiate them with marketing. And we worked with biz ops and finance to inform additional market entry go, no-go decisions with much more confidence. So one little thing I'm proud of was convincing leadership to bring the entire working team on an 18-hour flight to the land of the cinematic masterpiece, Crazy Rich Asians. It's a great movie, great book, highly, love it. I'm sure you've watched it many times. But the whole premise of that was to be in the homes with our future customers, live testing, rapidly iterating, spending time strategizing with our local Asia team in person. All of this helped us build a better product, new ways of resourcing, and trust with leadership. But I think most importantly, it helped us build trust with each other. So that partnership was just as valuable as the insights we found. Awesome. Theresa?
All right, now back to our robots. It was a tale of two robots, a tale as old as time, if you will. Now, remember, we had the little white robot and the little gray robot. Which one do you all think was the commercial success? Who thinks it was the first one? Who thinks it was the second one? Ooh, all right. So actually, it was our first robot, Cosmo. So why did this robot do so well in market? What went right? We had a really tricky problem. We had to launch this product. We had limited marketing budget. We had two target audiences. We had the kids, we had the parents. There were audacious revenue goals, and product had to build all of these new features. How did that go? Well, from a research perspective, we did all the things that you do when you launch a new product, feature prioritization, segmentation, you know the drill, right? We also had a really cool user market research partnership where we got these kids in a room, played with the robots, kept a couple of them back, asked them questions why, and we had our product and engineering folks in the back room. Let me tell you, I did not need to convince them to build a driving function into this robots when all of these kids were right there telling them to do it. So that was great, but it wasn't just us. Data science helped size the target audience. Channel partners helped us figure out the retail reach. Finance went in and partnered with us together to figure out signals for how we were going to do in market. Ended up, we had product market fit. The product delivered on what the customers were expecting. Parents were thrilled to pay for this. We ended up being a #1 Amazon bestseller. And it was a really fun team sport. Everybody pulled in together. And then, when robots attack, what happened here? So it was the same company. It was the same team. It was 1 year later. What happened here? Vector was a more advanced robot. And it flopped. Why? Well, kids wanted Cosmo to have a buddy robot, and we were building an uncle robot, if you will. So what was the root of what happened here? We didn't have alignment between what people wanted to buy and what we were building. And then, probably more importantly, between the insights functions, while we were all very well connected, we didn't communicate and integrate the insights quickly enough to explain to leadership how dire that gap was in time for them to make some really hard decisions before the holidays. So we launched without product market fit. The product didn't deliver on what the folks wanted to buy it for, and we ended up missing those revenue goals. Now, could the best insights in the world have saved this robot at launch? Maybe not. Did things go off the rails a little bit faster because we weren't as integrated as we could have been? Maybe. But now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a structure to help you set yourselves up for success so you don't end up launching your own weird robot uncle.
So when I saw that Vector commercial, all I could think about was Terminator, and that is not what I want for an uncle, so we're good with that. Okay, so, more frameworks. So now that we've shared our own experience, we wanted to map out a very actionable partnerships framework for you. And I'm sure some of you have done some of these actions, but really the premise is obviously connect. So you want to build that foundation of trust and openness. You want to communicate, so create open channels of sharing. You want to integrate, embed your insights into ways of working, and you want to amplify, so drive impact together.
And how this worked at Asana is we had a big project to update our onboarding experience. So as you might imagine, we connected over kombucha catch-ups with all the different insight functions. We put a plan together where we communicated in a Figma Jamboard all the things we knew and hypothesized about what might be going wrong. We integrated the plan, oversampled our new users and our CSAT tracker that already existed. User research set up some one-on-one with folks on different stages of the onboarding journey. And then data science took a look at what people were actually doing so we could understand the gap in what was not going what was getting lost in translation. Then we amplified those learnings with data science models that help marketers predict what folks should be doing next, and workshops all around Asana and more. And they live on today in data science experiments.
Sounds awesome. And so this one, not suitable for presentation, but great for y'all to screenshot if you want, is just a fuller version of what we just showed. And we're happy to share this afterwards. But more importantly, we really want to hear from you, your own examples of worked really well, so we can continue to develop this.
So while we may do more or less of any given thing, there's a lot of overlap that we share. And it means we're all thinking about the same kinds of opportunities and questions, but the answers are better when we work together. And selfishly, these partnership ends up giving us a lot of transferable skills. And in this job market, we'll take everything that we can get. So these are just some of the transitions. We've seen folks on our teams make moves career-wise after doing some of these partnerships. So here's where we leave you. The most powerful decisions come from the intersection of insights, not from market research alone.
Not from user research alone, but really from multiple insights functions working together to see the full picture.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I love that ending. I totally agree that if you bring insights together, it is truly the case where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And I think you guys had some great examples of how to do that really effectively and collaboratively. So I'll give you one quick little metaphor. I love playing with Legos. I have two boys who also love Legos. And it's okay to have like a Lego set and you kind of build it by yourself and you put together exactly what the package says. It's a lot more fun actually to combine Legos with your friends or your siblings.
Yep.
And you can create this like monster Lego set that was kind of like unforeseen, and it's like unlocks a lot of creativity, and then the end result is way cooler than if you did exactly what the box said with just your one little set of Legos by itself. And I think that like metaphor extends to insights as well. Like you combine with your friends from other teams and other functions, and you unlock a really cool set of insights that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. And I think the examples you gave were an amazing insight into that. So thank you.
Cool.
Also, I love the frameworks. Such a gold mine of frameworks you guys had in your deck. I think you'll share that on LinkedIn afterwards. Is that right?
Yep.
So
happy to share if you want access to all the frameworks.
if you guys don't follow Theresa and Angie, please check them out on LinkedIn. You can get their gold mine of frameworks right there. All right, with that, I will open it up to the audience. If you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll give you a mic. We have one in the back corner there. And one ask is to introduce yourself, your name, and where you're coming from. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shreya. I'm coming from San Jose, California, so just an hour south, drove on up to the North Bay Area. My question is, when the stakeholders that you're trying to deliver your insights to are asking you to share data faster, but you don't have all of the pieces for that cohesive story together, what are your sort of recommendations on how to push back to tell them you want to wait until you get all the data because it gives you those robust recommendations?
Yeah, so a lot of the work I showed, and also just from my past experiences, we do try to work in a rapid research iteration. So truthfully, we are sharing data like every day in a way. We do try to set up some expectations ahead of time, like, hey, this is only so much of the picture. Afterwards, fast follow will show the full thing. But the truth is, it's like every day you're, say, in field, or every day we were in Singapore talking to someone, we were pivoting and iterating with that data to build and rebuild our prototypes and just what we learned. So by at the end, we had something like a fuller picture. It does help to set up some of those workshops or strategy sessions. That was a big thing for us. So we had 2 scheduled in 1 week. But then afterwards, you could also have that. So it sets some certain gates and expectations of what's to come, and you can kind of control that. Yeah.
One thing I'd add is that when you've only been in field for 1 day and you have a tiny bit of data, but folks are still banging down your door, I've started using a low, medium, high confidence updates. So with a low level of confidence, I can tell you today, people do not want this, or they're very excited about driving. And that just helps our stakeholders frame, this answer might change because our confidence is really low. If you give me another day, I might tell you something different.
I think you're going to have like a vector day or a Cosmo day, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Like sometimes and you're like, hey, I could tell you right off the bat, like this is just not going to land. Or you know what, early signal is still developing, but we're like pretty confident. And sometimes you're like, we need more data, and like it's okay. It's okay, I think, to say to your stakeholders, like give us time. We need to like develop the insights, and we can't rush into something because like we say this a lot at Slack. The only thing worse than no data is bad data. And you don't want to rush into a decision that you can't undo because you're rushing. Any other questions from the audience? Yeah, right here.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm from Brooklyn. And I'm curious, you guys talked a lot about collaborating across teams. I actually lead a combined team of market research, UX research, strategic researchers that serves the whole organization. And I feel like that's a trend, but I'm curious what you guys are seeing and if you think the next iteration of research is more centralized or if we're going to break out and become embedded again. Just curious for your take.
I think we have some thoughts on this. We've been seeing a cycle. So personally, I've been seeing we've been decentralizing and embedding, but just you wait a year or two, it's all going to come together. I've seen that through my entire career. It's like this. But the caveat with that is depends how big your organization is. So the larger you are, most likely you're going to stay siloed. The smaller you are, like organizations like I was last in, we were able to have the luxury of actually building it together because we were so we could operate so much more nimbly. But yeah, there's a lot of factors at play. Yeah.
+1. It's a constantly moving pendulum.
Also, shout out New York. Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience? Yeah, right here.
Hello, I'm Sophia. I'm a mixed math researcher at JetBrains. And my question is, do you see any, or maybe foresee any challenges or changes in these frameworks in a AI era, in AI time, when products could be shipped in days or weeks?
I missed the second part. So you're saying if there's any challenges we saw with the timelines?
Yes, challenges or changes in these frameworks.
Yeah. So the frameworks are supposed to be fluid. So high level, it gives you a little structure to help map out things. So it's kind of like, we had one that was the funnel, and it could depend where you are in the funnel too. You might not need the whole thing. I showed one that was basically a double diamond with a little modification, and usually that's cyclical here, cyclical there. So a lot of that's pretty fluid, and not gonna lie, we pivoted every single time we found more information. So what you're saying is spot on. We had to adapt for what we found. We had to adapt for speed sometimes. There were some projects that we actually moved really quick. There are some projects because of regulatory delay that we had the luxury of time. So it should be a very fluid process for you. Yeah.
And I'll just add that nice story that I talked about at Asana, where we improved the onboarding experience. Every team had a role. Of course, that project stopped and started 10 times. People left, people joined, things transitioned. So the end result, yes, I could put it in a nice framework, but when you're in the moment, it was a very fluid situation.
Yep.
Well, thank you. This is an amazing talk, some great insights, and more importantly, some great frameworks to take back to your day-to-day work at your own company. So check them out on social media. They'll post their frameworks there. And join me in thanking Theresa and Angie for their great talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.